أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من شر الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد، اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. والصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الميامين المنتجبين، واللعنة الدائمة الأبدية على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم: إذا مات ابن آدم انقطع إلا عن ثلاث: صدقة جارية، وعلم ينتفع به، وولد صالح يدعو له. صدق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. Brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, today we are going to talk about upraising the child, as we started in our few nights, that it all starts from before the marriage, while the marriage, and even the time of pregnancy. All these kind of stages, they have a big role and big effect. They all affect the child's direction. Either he goes to the direction of light or the direction of darkness. The Prophet ﷺ said in this hadith, and this hadith is narrated in the same context or same content by many infallibles, and narrated also in the schools of companion. If a person dies, the book of deeds is closed. Three things still continue. What are these three things? Flowing charity. You participated in a mosque and now you died. After your death, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lengthen your lives inshallah in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After a person dies, even his book is closed, but as long as people are benefiting from that masjid, or from that class, or from that school, from that book, any beneficial, Islamic beneficial thing which pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as long as these people are coming and benefiting from that project, the person who's dead, he's going to get the benefits, the profits. The profits are going to continue in his book. His book was closed. The angel said, no, open the book back again. So, this is what happens in Sadaqah Jariyah, flowing charity. Ilmun yuntafa bihi. A person established a system, a book, a knowledge which is beneficial knowledge. After some time, he dies. As long as this book is being benefited from it, people will, as long as the book is benefited from, the person the person who wrote this book or established this educational system, he's going to get benefits even after he dies. And the third thing is waladun salihun yad'u lahu. This is our topic. I'm going to elaborate more on this, because this is what we need to do. Waladun salih yad'u lahu. A pious son who prays for him. A pious progeny who prays for him. If a person dies, the book is closed. No good deeds, nothing, no good deeds, no bad deeds. Now he's in the grave. And he sees that the angels are starting to give him rewards. What's happening? I died. My book was closed. No. You have a pious son who's praying for you. A pious son who prays for the deceased one. There are so many du'as. Like you will see, a pious son can help his parents. If his parents are dead or her parents are dead, pious son means the progeny, not just male, no, male and female. When it's a waladun salih, that means male or female, pious progeny. But walad is used just in Arabic language to express the begotten child, whether he's male or female. So as long as the child, as long as the son or daughter, they are praying for their parents, the parents, they are getting the thawab. Prophet Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, he passed by a grave. Because Prophet Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, Allah gave him this special abilities to communicate with the deceased people. He heard from beside a grave, a person was being punished. Second year, when he passed by the same grave, he didn't hear anything. He heard that guy was being in bounteous. He was in a good position. So he asked, "Oh God, what's happening here?" Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Innahu udrika lahu waladun salih." That he got reached. That means a pious son a pious son reached him. That means his pious son started to pray for him and pray for his forgiveness. So we forgave the sins for him and we relieved him from the punishment. So the punishment was relieved. Why? Because the son. See how much great effect. A guy comes to Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. He says, "Yabna Rasulullah, I was disobedient in the life of my parents and now they are dead. I don't know what can I do." Imam alayhi salatu wasalam says, "Well, pray for them." Pray for them now? Yeah. A person could be pious or obedient to his parents while they are living and disobedient after his death. And a person could be disobedient in their life and obedient after their death. So why shouldn't a person be obedient in their life, in their death? So he said, do the charities on their behalf. It will reach them. So the thing is that your du'as, your du'as and your good deeds, if you include your parents, it helps them. It starts to write in their books also. These charities are written in their books and they benefit from this. So that's why if you recite Surah Yasin and give the thawab to the marhumin, or you do Umrah or Hajj or Ziyarat of Imam Husayn alayhi salam, do any good deed and include your parents in it, they are going to get the reward as well. They are not live. The book is closed. The book is going to be open because you made the book open. So the whole idea, why I'm saying this here, we want to make this pious progeny. How can we make this pious progeny? It's your deal. It's your job. Make this pious progeny that when you die, you see the severe consequences for some of the things you might have done, then you will need this pious progeny to save you after your death. So our task is to prepare this pious progeny, not just for ourselves. For ourselves, that means there's a selfishness. No, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that they are saved also in the hereafter. And this is a dual benefit. If we prepare a pious progeny, then it's benefit for us. For us, when we die, if we train our children to be nice and pious, this is also sadaqah jariyah. This is a flowing charity as well. If you establish a child worshipping Allah, as long as your child worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're going to get benefits. See, the outcome is yours as well. Yours as well. So, if you teach him knowledge, as long as he's implementing that knowledge, the outcome is coming to you. And you teach him the righteousness, so as long as the child is righteous, he's going to pray for you. Rabbirhamhuma kama rabbayani saghira. Oh my Lord, bestow your mercy upon them, my father and mother, upon them, as they appraised me when I was child, as they took care of me, as they brought me up since my childhood. So see, the dua, if this dua was not effective, Quran would not have mentioned. What's the use of dua which is not effective? And we know that Quran, whatever is in the Quran is beneficial. Whatever is in the Quran has aim, a purpose in it. So when Quran brings this thing, Rabbirhamhuma, dua, it's mentioned in the Quran. Dua, Rabbirhamhuma kama rabbayani saghira. That means the dua plays the role, effect. Now, our task is how to prepare this progeny. We said, from before the marriage, after the marriage, food, there are so many things, physical factors and spiritual factors. We spoke about how the food affects. I just remember a story of Muqaddas al-Ardabili, just related to the food, how the food affects in your progeny. This Muqaddas al-Ardabili, he was a great scholar. It's known in our school of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam. He met the 12th Imam Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. He was so pious that people, they titled him Muqaddas. They had never ever seen a person in that time so pious. This great marja of that time, he was so pious and pure and holy. He was so sacred. He used to avoid every, not just haram. He used to avoid even makruh. Not just makruh, even mubah. Muqaddas al-Ardabili, so pure, so pious. He never stretched his leg. Some of his students, they, oh Maulana, my master, we never saw you stretching your leg. Why? See the answer. How can I stretch my legs? How can I stretch my legs? And I'm in the presence of my Almighty. That will be disrespectful. Of course, you are not obligated to do whatever Muqaddas al-Ardabili does, but we are talking about the mentality. How the mentality, in every small thing, this great person is concerned about how to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how to avoid His displeasure, how to avoid any type of disrespect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is Muqaddas al-Ardabili. Muqaddas al-Ardabili, if you look into his history, all his history, every single moment of his life, you will learn a lot of lessons. So spiritual personality, so God-fearing, God-loving personality. We need to follow. He was not Imam, he was not infallible. Many people say, oh Shaykh, we cannot be like Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam. But can you become like Muqaddas al-Ardabili? Can you follow the steps of Muqaddas al-Ardabili? There is no problem. He is the same human like you. But see the build up. See the build up behind the Muqaddas al-Ardabili. Muqaddas al-Ardabili, they came to him, they said, Maulana, our du'as are not mustajab. Allah says, call me, I will respond. My dua is not mustajab. Muqaddas al-Ardabili says that, you guys, in our days, he says, we used to have only two things. Either haram, forbidden, either wajib, obligatory act. One of these two things. Now you have 5 rules. Haram, mustahab, mubah, makruh, and wajib. Wajib, you must do. Mustahab, it's recommended. If you don't do, it's okay. It's recommended. You please Allah if you do, but if you don't do, you will not be punished. Mubah, neutral zone. There is no prohibition, no obligation, or no incentive, no preventive in it. And then we have makruh, abhorred thing, abominable thing. That means Allah dislikes it, but He will not punish you. It's not haram. It's not forbidden. Allah dislikes you. He will not put you in hellfire if you do it. They say, kullu makruhin jaiz. Every makruh is jaiz. It's halal. Because you can do it. It displeases Allah, but you will not be punished. And haram, it displeases Allah, plus you will be punished. So he said that you guys do wajib. When it comes to mustahab, salat al-layl, oh, it's mustahab, but it pleases Allah. Am I going to be punished? No, you are not going to be punished. So why should I bother myself with something I'm not going to be punished? Why should I do mustahab? Why should I do nighttime prayers? Why should I recite Quran? Why should I do this mustahabbat? Let me just do my wajibat, salat, fasting, and that's it. Wajib only. Why do please Allah? No. It's wajib? No. Okay, then don't push me to it. Okay, that's fine. Haram? Yes, haram I'll avoid. This is makruh. Makruh? Am I going to be punished? No. So, okay, then let me do makruh. Kullu makruhin jaiz, hatta nikah al-ajaiz. They say nikah al-ajaiz, getting married to the elder women, you know, it is makruh, but it's jaiz. It's halal, permitted, because you're going to get married to someone who's like your grandmother or your great-great-great-grandmother. It's like a makruh, it's abhorred, you know. So get married to her, but it's not haram. So there's a kullu makruhin jaiz, because it rhymes. Hatta nikah al-ajaiz. Ajaiz is elderly women. So it rhymes, so that's why they use it. Okay, kullu makruhin jaiz, hatta nikah al-ajaiz, you know, it's jaiz, even if we're getting married to the very elderly woman. The problem is, here, doesn't it displease Allah? See the level of irfan, the level of ma'rifah of Allah, the level of love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you have love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will avoid makruh. You will avoid makruh. Why should I spend my time in displeasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If Allah has given me intellect, and in my responsibility in this world to be close to Allah, to please Him, the more I please my Lord, the more I please Allah, the more I become close to Him. That means I should avoid the makruhat and do my best to do the mustahabbat, the recommendation. Look at Muqaddas al-Ardabili. He said, 40 years, I never did something mubah. Forget the haram, forget the makruh. Mubah he did not do. You know what's mubah? Mubah is neutral zone. That means there is no displeasure of Allah, there is no pleasure of Allah. He says, if there is no pleasure of Allah, why should I waste my time in something which does not please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Let me put all my time and efforts in whatever. This time is a bounty, is a blessing, is something is a gift given to me by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I need to fill my time with whatever pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be it an obligatory act or recommended act. So recommended act, I need to do it because I want to, even if it is not wajib, but I made wajib on myself to always please my God, always please my Creator, always please the one who bestows favors after favors upon me. I need to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why I'm going to do mustahab. And I'm going to avoid makruh, waste of time, waste of energy. This time is precious thing. I have this small time left in this world, maybe 50 years, maybe 70 years, maybe 60. I need to utilize every single moment of this time to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Muqaddas al-Ardabili says, I never, from 40 years, I never did something which was makruh or abhorred. This is Muqaddas al-Ardabili. Look at the mentality. All what he wants to do is please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is his aim. So no more. Sheikh Abbas al-Qummi, the author of Mafatih al-Jinan, says, all my life, I have been focusing how to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 20 years, I have never ever thought of doing mubah. Mubah is something which is neutral zone. There's no pleasure of Allah, there's no displeasure of Allah. A neutral zone. He said, why should I waste my time in this neutral zone? So that's why, if you want your dua to be fulfilled, try to focus, to fill your time as much as you can in pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we say pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it includes everything. Directly or indirectly. Directly, like direct commands of Allah. Salatul Layl, fasting, reciting Quran, charity, all these recommendations. They are direct commands. Indirectly, whatever actions, regular actions they are, if you do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it becomes recommended. It's an accidental recommendation. That means initially it's not recommended, but it becomes 24 hours of your day, you can make it convert it all, either wajib or either recommended act. How? How's that? You want me to 24/7 be on the salat, Allahu Akbar, ruku', sujood? Shaykhna, we have families, we have life, we have work, we have job. What are you trying to say? You are trying to stick us to the carpet? You are trying to make us like those people who are not concerned about their worldly responsibilities? No. You misunderstood me. You misunderstood me. Did I say pray 24/7 on the carpet? I never said that. I said you can make your 24/7, your 24 hours, 7 days a week, pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How? Your sleep. Let's start from the sleep. Many people, they sleep, snore and all those kind of things, wasting their sleeping, doing nothing. If you sleep with wudu, ablution, just do ablution, do your wudu and sleep. Your bed becomes a place of worship. Just sleeping and snoring becomes a place of worship. This is utilizing the time, utilizing those blanks. So when you do it for the sake of Allah, مَنْ بَاتَ عَلَى وُضُوءٍ كَانَ فِرَاشُهُ الْمَسْجِدِ. Whoever sleeps with wudu, then his bed becomes a mosque. That means he's worshipping the whole night, though he's snoring. But that snoring, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take it as worship. So this is the thing, how to convert things in a way it could please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you're sleeping, if you do wudu, but we barely have this sleeping desire and we wash our face and do wudu, we will lose our sleeping desire. Okay. There's another thing. Do tayammum. In this, even the water is available. The hadith has exempted this tayammum. That this tayammum is so that you can use your sleeping as tawab. You can utilize your sleeping as a worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wudu is too much, wudu is hectic. Do tayammum. Strike your hand on the ground and wipe your forehead and your palms. Of course, you have to remove the rings. The rings needs to be removed. Strike your hand on the dust or on the pure ground, and then wipe your forehead. This is only, you don't need to do the whole face. This one. And then your hand, first wipe your right hand, and then your left hand. remove the rings, remove the rings. Okay? Rings needs to be removed. That's all. That's all. A discount. 90% discount. No water, no nothing. You do this tayammum and sleep. Your bed becomes place of worship. Now tell me, is it too much? Is it too much to just strike and wipe your... is that too much? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us sales after sales, discounts after discount, just so that we can utilize our time to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need to teach our children these kind of easy things, how to become close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how our concern should not be just wajib, no, how our concern should be whatever pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, here, we slept. Wake up in the morning, Salatul Fajr, of course it's wajib. Do some mustahabbat and all those kind of things. Now, you're going to recite the Quran. You're going to utilize the time in reciting dua and Quran. After that, you can sleep. After the sun rises, you can sleep. And then after that, whatever you do is halal. Say, I'm doing this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your job. How can job be? As long as the job is halal, I'm not telling you, go and sell liquor. No, the Shaykh told us, whenever you go to the job, say, I'm doing this qurbatan lillahi ta'ala, to achieve the nearness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Come on, give me a break, I didn't say that. Remember, halal. If your job is halal, why did you choose halal job? To please Allah. So your job, even if you don't say, it is for the sake of Allah. You chose this job for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So while you are in your job, because you chose this halal job for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours in your job, you are worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you add one more intention, to please my family, to make easiness to my family, to give them proper food, proper life, that's also pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So your job can have multiple pleasures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based on your intentions. You come home, anything you do, you contemplate in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your free time, communicate with Allah, do dhikr, do tasbih, whatever good deeds, relate to your relatives, communicate, give a smile, as simple as smile you give to your brother mu'min, believer brother, your family, your children. This smile is sadaqah, charity. If I'm going to talk, we will never end. How can you utilize your time to please Allah? But this is the general note. Utilize your time to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as you can. 24 hours of yours can be for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even having sex with your wife, even having sex with your husband, this kind of act, if you do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not to please only yourself, to please your partner, that becomes an act of worship. Sex? Come on, Shaykh, now what is this? Sex becomes an act of worship. Yes, sex becomes act of worship. There are hadith of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam narrated that if you have your sex act to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you're pleasing your partner, who's supposed to be mu'min or mu'mina, male, female, it depends, husband or wife, so you are pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As this desirable act can be an act of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this Muqaddas al-Ardabili we're talking, he was utilizing all his time to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need to teach this to our children. We don't need, do this, salat, salat, salat. No, yes, wajibat, yes. But beside that, teach them. There are so many ways you can please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are so hundreds of ways you can please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even by eating your food, when you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, you are entertaining desire, fulfilling your desire. And when at the end you say Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, your dining becomes, your dinner, lunch, breakfast becomes for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine if a person does like this. This is how Shaykh Abbas al-Qummi, Muqaddas al-Ardabili teaches. Muqaddas al-Ardabili, how this personality came. Of course, external factors, internal factors. One of the internal factors, one guy, he was walking beside a stream of water. He found an apple or a fruit. He took a bite. After taking a bite of this fruit, he realized, this fruit may be property of someone else. it may be owned by someone else. Oh my goodness, I have committed haram. Let me go and check whose fruit is this, so that I can seek permission from him and make it halal, so that he can forgive me. So this guy goes and follows the stream from where it starts. He comes to a house, a big house. He knocks the door, knock, knock, knock. Who's there? Please open the door. I have a request. What is your request? See, I found this fruit flowing in the stream of water, and this water is coming out from your garden, and the same fruit is in your garden. So I have eaten a bite of this fruit. I want you to make it halal for me. I want you to make it halal for me. Forgive me. He said, forgive you? I'm not going to forgive you. I'm not going to forgive you unless on condition. He said, what is the condition? Tell me. I'm in hell now. If you are not going to forgive me. See, a bite only. And this person is so much concerned about halal and haram. Now this person has kept him into a difficult situation. Tell me, what can I do? I have a condition. I want you to get married to my daughter. That's nice. You know, who doesn't want that kind of thing? But let me tell you one thing. My daughter, she's blind. That smile started to convert to a little bit down. She's ugly, more down. That like funny, that happy face now started to become sad face. She's blind. She cannot walk. She cannot talk. What is this? A tool? A junk? What am I going to get married here? This is really going to be hell for me. She cannot walk. What's this? A pile of a blob or so the guy. Okay, now he's thinking, what? Either the punishment of akhirat, hereafter, the torture of hereafter, or the torture of this world. Just because of the bite, he's going to severe one of the two consequences. Either hereafter, hell or punishment, or in this world, this blob, getting married to a blob, you know, a piece of nothing. So he said, okay, Allah, I'll get married to this, your daughter. And they get married to this daughter. On the wedding night, he's going into the room, and he uncovers the girl. Oh my goodness, he freaks out. He goes out of the room. The father says, what happened? What happened? He said, a bite cost me a severe situation. Now if I go and sleep with this woman, who's not the one you described, is going to bring me hell after hell. So he said, what's the problem? He said, you told me your daughter is ugly, she cannot walk, she cannot talk, she cannot hear, she cannot see, all these kind of things. She's ugly. But this is a beauty queen inside. He said, so what? This is my daughter. What about those things? He said, I told you all the metaphors. She's ugly because nobody has seen her face, so people, they don't know about her. When she wears the veil, she looks ugly. So people, she's ugly woman, we don't want but that's when people, they wear, the women, they wear veil. I'm not telling wajib mustahab, it's a different thing. I'm just telling this story, the comment in the story, because when people, they see a veiled woman, they get away from the, what is this, a ghost or a Batman or something like that. So anyhow, the situation is that people, instead of getting desires and lust feelings by looking at her, they don't have this kind of thing. So nobody has seen her. She cannot talk, she doesn't talk haram. She cannot listen, she never listens to haram. She cannot see, blind from haram. She cannot walk, she never walked to haram. All this, she's a pious, pure piece of piety. And I've been looking for a pious person for her, who's compatible for her. And when you came, and you were so much concerned about a small bite of an apple, you came all the way looking for my house. I said, this is the Mr. Right for my Mrs. Right daughter. You are the guy. I want you. So that's why I want you to have my daughter halal. She's halal of you. And this guy gets married to this daughter, and they have a son. Who is this son? The pious, holy, sacred personality. This is, of course, the internal factor. Because this father was always careful about what he eats. He's very careful about what goes inside his system. Because whatever goes inside the system affects. Whatever goes inside the system affects the progeny. and see how. Pregnancy, if a woman, she's pregnant, if she recites the Quran, see, halal food is physical. We need spiritual food also. If a person recites the Quran while the child is in a fetus, that affects, you are feeding spiritual food to the child, spiritual nurturing. So Sheikh Murtada al-Ansari, his mother, when he was Sheikh Murtada, great scholar, I'm not going to go into details, we have short time here about Sheikh Murtada al-Ansari. His book is still taught in Hausa. If you don't pass his book, you will not graduate from the Hausa, from Islamic education, Advanced Islamic Education Institute in Qom al-Najaf. If you don't study the book of Sheikh al-Ansari, you don't graduate from the Hausa. You're not a scholar. You have to go. This much importance Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made in His work, that it has written before years and years, and until now it is a compulsory book in our Islamic educational system, the highest Islamic educational system. Sheikh Murtada al-Ansari was so pious. Inshallah, one day we're going to talk about Sheikh Murtada al-Ansari. But here, look what affects. His mother, whenever she used to nurse him, she used to feed him milk, she will do the wudu. Wudu, why? Wudu creates a spiritual connection with a person and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Spiritual connection with a person and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So she used to create a spiritual connection, because through the milk, a lot of characteristics are passed on the child. Through the milk, a lot of characteristics of the person is passed to the child. That is why the Prophet ﷺ used to say, if you want your child to be nursed, then wet nurse, choose a wet nurse who's pious, great, moral, with best of morals, behaviors. And this was the Arabs. The Arabs, they used to invite wet nurses. They used to be selective. Why? Because they knew that what the nurse, this is the nanny. The nanny we were talking about a few nights before. This is the nanny. They used to be so selective. These were ignorant, jahiliyyah. But when it comes to feeding the child, nurturing the child, external feeding, milk, they were very careful. Because also with the milk, internal purities or impurities, they transmit to the child. The child grasps. With the milk, it's not just the milk. It's the attachment which is created between the wet nurse and the child. This kind of bond is a spiritual bond as well. So that's why Islam considers a wet nurse your mother. You cannot get married to your mother through wet nurse. She's like your mother. And his daughter is like your sister. She is your sister, not like your sister. She's your sister through being nursed. Rida'a, nursed sister. You cannot get married to your... and her daughter is your sister. So this wet nursing, we have a lot of rules in Islam, because it creates a bond, a spiritual motherly bond between the child and the mother. So imagine, we mentioned the mother is a school. We need the school to be nice. We need the school to be full with pure, best characters. How can we dump our children in the hands of immoral people, immoral babysittings? We need to really screen these babysittings. What's happening? Is the woman who's babysitting my daughter, is she wearing hijab? Is she offering salah? Is she observing the rules of Islamic laws? Is she observing the Sharia, the Islamic law, or she's a sloppy woman? If she's a sloppy woman, you are teaching that sloppiness to your daughter or to your son. This is the role of mother. Mother is an important component, whether it's a wet nurse, whether it's a nanny type nurse, a mother, whether it's a real mother. So when we get married, we mentioned, we are bringing a school in our house. And this is the school of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam. People of Ahlul Bayt, followers of Ahlul Bayt, they were school. Never there was school like the school of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, which graduates children like Imam Hassan and Husayn alayhi salatu wasalam, which graduates children like Ali Akbar, Abul Fadl al-Abbas, Zainab alayhi salatu wasalam, all these great ones. And today we are going to talk about a mother whose milk was dry. 3 days, no water in the land of Karbala. This mother, she wants to nurse her child. She wants to nurse her child, but there's no milk, there's no water. The child is thirsty. This is the child of Imam Husayn alayhi salatu wasalam. Imam Husayn, 2 infants. Imam Husayn had 2 infants. on the day of Ashura. One is called Abdullah, one is called Ali Asghar. Many people, they get confused. Some they say Ali Asghar is Abdullah, some they say Abdullah is Ali Asghar. The Arab communities, when they recite the tragedy of Karbala, they mention the name Ali Asghar, because there are narrations mentioning the name Ali Asghar. I'm sorry. Whenever the Arabs they recite the majlis of tonight, they mention Abdullah Razi, Abdullah the infant. And whenever the Indo-Pakistani communities they recite, they mention the name Ali Akbar, Ali Asghar, the junior Ali or young Ali. So there's no confusion. If you look into the narrations, these two children are two different infants from two different mothers. One was born on the day of Ashura, and one was 6 months old. The one who was born on the day of Ashura is called Abdullah Razi', the infant Abdullah, and the one who was 6 months old, who was Ali Asghar. Abdullah Razi', his mother is different. Ali Asghar's mother is different. Ali Asghar's mother is Rabab, mother of Sukaina also. Mother of Sukaina. So Ali Asghar was brother of Sukaina. So here, on the day of Ashura, the companions of Imam Husayn alayhi salam, were martyred, one after another. Akbar goes to the battlefield, does not come back. Qasim goes to the battlefield, does not come back. Abbas goes to bring water, does not come back. Everybody is going to the battlefield. Today, a young warrior, a young soldier of Imam Husayn alayhi salam is crying as he's calling his father. Father, what about me? Why am I left here in the tent alone? He's crying and crying. Mother of Asghar comes and asks Imam Husayn, "Oh Husayn, take this son and take our son and feed him, tell the people to feed them water." In some narrations, Zainab tells Imam Husayn, and in some narrations, Kulthum tells Imam Husayn. And since there were two child who were martyred on the land of Karbala, then it could be one of them was offered by Zainab alayhi salam, and one of them was offered by Kulthum or Rabab. Here, the day of Ashura, there is no water. The children are calling Al-Atash, Al-Atash. And this baby is crying also, Al-Atash, Al-Atash. He's crying for water. The baby is thirsty. Rabab brings Ali Asghar to Imam Husayn alayhi salam and gives him and tells him, "Oh Husayn, bring some water for our child. Let them feed our child some water." Imam Husayn alayhi salam covers Ali Asghar in a piece of cloth, and Imam Husayn is coming out of the tent. People, they are looking at Imam Husayn coming out of his tent, holding something in his hand. Some of them, they thought that finally Imam Husayn alayhi salam agreed to have a peace treaty, and he's bringing the Quran in his hand. But Imam Husayn is coming closer and closer. He came close enough, and he told them, "Oh people, if you think that we have done something wrong, and we have deprived us from water, then what is the fault of this child? This child is innocent. What did he do to you so that he is suffering this thirst and misery?" People, they started to talk and quarrel. They talk and quarrel. They started to talk and quarrel. Yes, Husayn is right. Why should we torture this child? Our aim is Husayn, not his child, is this infant. And there was a quarrel in the army, in the camp of Umar ibn Sa'ad. The condemned Umar ibn Sa'ad says, "Oh Harmala, cut the speech of the people." Imam Husayn alayhi salam is forwarding Ali Asghar. Ali Asghar is in his hand. He's forwarding Ali Asghar. He's holding Ali Asghar and showing Ali Asghar to the people. "Oh people, this child has done nothing." And when the quarrel starts to be increased, Umar ibn Sa'ad says, "Oh Harmala, why aren't you shooting the arrow?" Harmala says, "Whenever I am shooting, I see some ghost telling me, why are you torturing our children?" He said, "Cut the speech of the people, cut the quarrel of the people, cut the dispute of the people, otherwise we'll have a revolution inside our camp." Karbala picks the arrow, brothers and sisters. hold on your hearts. It is mentioned in some of the narration that arrow had 3 heads in order that if he misses, this 3-headed arrow will never miss, because the neck of Ali Asghar was so small, an infant whose neck was so small. Harmala shoots the arrow is crossing the camp, comes to the hand of Imam Husayn alayhi salam, goes through the neck of Ali Asghar. A desperate father holding a cute, adorable child in his hand, looking at his child. An arrow is passing through the neck of Harmala. The water gushes out from the neck of the arrows passing through the neck of Ali Asghar, and the blood is gushing out from the neck. Imam Husayn calls, Wa Asghara, Wa Asghara. He calls, oh God, look what they are doing to us. Look how they are torturing us. Ali Asghar, an infant child. What was the fault of Ali Asghar? Imam Husayn alayhi salam is preventing the blood of Ali Asghar from falling down on the ground, because if the blood falls on the ground, the earth will be condemned. This innocent's blood cannot be spilled on the ground. What should Imam Husayn do? People, they look at Imam Husayn from the camp, enemy's camp. They narrate, we saw Husayn wiping the blood of his infant child on his face, and he was now hesitating. How will I go back to the camp? How will I show Ali Asghar to his mother what they have done to Ali Asghar? Imam Husayn wraps Ali Asghar in that cloth, and he's bringing. When he comes close to the door gate of the tent, he hesitates. How can I go inside? That desperate mother, how can I show Sukaina her brother? And Imam Husayn hesitates 7 times. He goes back forth. He goes to the camp, the gate. He goes to the gate of the camp, and then he retreats. And then he goes back to the camp, and every time he's saying, Ridhan bi qada'illah wa qadare. Oh God, I am pleased with your decree. I am pleased with the destiny. Oh God, I am pleased with it. I am not complaining. Imam Husayn is pleased with the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Never complaining. Brothers and sisters, when Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam was holding Ismail, it was difficult situation, but Ismail was not slaughtered. Imam Husayn alayhi salam is holding his slaughtered son, an infant, baby, cute baby, adorable son of Imam Husayn Ali Asghar. He is holding in his hand. Bless the heart of Imam Husayn. Imagine how strong the heart of Husayn is, that all these difficulties, yet he is not giving up. He is not going to give up. He is going to die in dignity. How could he give up now? He has lost everything. The infant child was remaining. He has lost that also. Imam Husayn finally decides to go inside the camp. Rabab looks at the face of Imam Husayn. She looks at the face of Imam Husayn, which was sad, and tears were flowing, but she cannot hear the cry of the child. She thinks that finally they gave water to Ali Asghar. So there is a silence there. Imam Husayn hands Ali Asghar to Rabab. Rabab uncovers the cloth. She sees the boy is filled with blood. His neck is cut. She shouts, Wa Asghara, Wa Asghara, Wa Asghara. What did they do to you? Oh my Asghar, what did they do to you? And Sakina looks at her brother. Oh my cute Asghar, oh my cute brother. How could they do this to you? How could they kill you? And father and mother, Sukaina and Zainab, everybody is shouting Wa Asghara and calling Wa Asghara. Brothers and sisters, Imam Husayn, he decides to bury Ali Asghar because he's a small child. He's a small child. He buries Ali Asghar beside the tent. But on the day of Ashura, when people, they were beheading the bodies of martyrs, they remembered that there was a small child also. He was killed. They want to behead. They exhumed the grave of Ali Asghar. They dug the grave of Ali Asghar. They beheaded Ali Asghar. And they kept the body of Ali Asghar without head. How cruel people these are. How will they face them? How will they face the messenger of Allah on the day of judgment? Brothers and sisters, one last tragedy regarding Ali Asghar. Ali Asghar, after Ali Asghar was martyred, on the day of Ashura, after everybody was martyred, the enemies of Islam, they brought the water and they fed the women, the household of the Imam Husayn, they fed them with water. And now Rabab feels that there is milk in her. She looks for the body of Ali Asghar. She goes and finds the body of Ali Asghar. She says, "Oh Ali Asghar, wake up! Wake up, Ali Asghar! Now I have something to feed you." Zainab looks at this situation, desperate situation of mother of Asghar. Brothers and sisters, it is mentioned in the narrations that the most desperate situation of the women was the situation of mother of Ali Asghar. And how could that not be the case when he was a cute, adorable child of Imam Husayn, of his father and mother? And Zainab is calling, "Oh Rabab, observe the patience, observe the patience. A lot has to come. Wa Asghara, وحسينا وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين مأتم الحسين يا حسين